Chosen one, stop for a moment. Do not rush past this. Do not treat this like another sound in the room. God says, open this message privately. Not because heaven is hiding from the world, but because this part is for the place inside you that no one else can reach. Archangel Michael says, finally, you opened what heaven has been placing in front of you. Finally, you stopped long enough to notice the pull in your spirit. Finally, you allowed the message to catch you before another distraction carried you away. This was not random. This was not the algorithm. This was not just timing. You have felt it. Something has been following you in the quiet. A heaviness when you wake up. A strange pressure in your chest. A sudden desire to be alone, even when nothing is wrong on the outside. And while everyone around you keeps moving like life is normal, something deep inside you keeps whispering that a doorway is near. You tried to ignore it. You told yourself it was stress. You told yourself it was just another mood. You even tried to explain away the signs, the repeated numbers, the dreams, the sudden memories, the strange silence from people who used to drain you. But your spirit knew. Your spirit recognized a knock. That is why you are here. Not because you are weak, not because you are lost. Not because you needed another message to make you feel special. You are here because God sent a private instruction, and Archangel Michael was assigned to guard the doorway until you were ready to open it. Listen closely. The word finally is not an accident. It means heaven has been waiting for your attention. It means you have been close to this message before, but something always pulled you away. A notification, a tired body, a restless mind, a voice saying later. And each time, the message waited. This is why you must not listen with only your ears. Listen with the part of you that has survived storms no one applauded. Listen with the part of you that kept praying, even when your prayers sounded empty. God is not speaking to your public image right now. He is speaking to the hidden you. The hidden you is tired. The hidden you has carried more than people know. You smile when you are expected to smile. You answer when they need you. You stay quiet when your soul wants to scream. And lately, even your rest has not felt like rest, because your spirit has been working while your body sleeps. That expectation is important. Do not dismiss it. It is not panic. It is not ordinary anxiety. It is the signal of a season shifting before your outer life has caught up. God often moves the spirit before he moves the circumstance, because if he changed the outside first, your old mind might call it luck. But this is not luck. This is alignment. This is the moment where heaven places a message in your path and watches whether you will keep scrolling, keep delaying, keep doubting, or finally become still enough to receive what was sent. You did not open this late. You opened it at the appointed time. Archangel Michael says, I was guarding this message while you were fighting battles you did not understand. That is why certain doors closed. That is why certain people went silent. That is why some plans collapsed without warning. Heaven was not punishing you. Heaven was clearing noise from the room. There were voices you would have trusted too much. There were opinions that would have confused the instruction. There were people who could not hear God for you, but still wanted permission to rename what God was doing in you. So the silence came. The separation came. The private season came. You thought you were being isolated. You were being protected. You thought you were being delayed. You were being positioned. You thought no one saw how hard it was to keep believing when nothing moved. But heaven saw every moment you wanted to quit and chose one more breath instead. That is why this message is not loud at first. It does not arrive like thunder. It arrives like a hand on your shoulder. It arrives like a quiet command to pay attention, because the next thing God says to you cannot be carried by the old version of you that needs everyone to understand first. Think about the last few days. How many times did you feel pulled away from noise? How many times did your soul feel uncomfortable around the same conversations that used to feel normal? How many times did you feel like something in you had outgrown the room but your life had not caught up yet. That feeling is not arrogance, it is separation, it is not rejection, it is refinement. God is not making you better than people. He is making you unavailable to the patterns that kept stealing your focus. And Michael stands at the edge of this moment, not to frighten you, but to protect what God is saying. There is a reason the thumbnail said to open this message privately, not because secrecy makes you powerful, but because certain instructions lose their purity when they are exposed too early to opinions, envy, fear, and the old version of your own mind. Some messages must be received before they are explained. God says, "You have been asking for confirmation, but I have been asking for your attention. You have been asking for a sign, but I have been asking you to stop dismissing the ones I already gave you. You have been asking me to speak louder, but I have been teaching you to become quieter." That is the shift. The message is not only about what God is saying, it is about the receiver inside you being restored. Because a divine message can stand right in front of someone, and if their inner world is crowded with fear, old wounds, survival pressure, and constant noise, they may still call it nothing. This is why Archangel Michael says, "Finally." Not with anger, not with disappointment, with relief. Like a guardian who has watched you walk through fog while carrying a crown you did not know was on your head. Like a warrior who has kept certain attacks from reaching you while you were still learning who you are. Take that in. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breath return. You are not being chased by doom. You are being called into clarity. This message is serious, but it is not here to terrify you. It is here to gather the scattered parts of your attention back into the presence of God. Before we go deeper, I need to place one seed here. Later, I will share a simple audio tool that has helped many people quiet mental noise and return to a higher inner signal. That tool is the Genius Song. Do not rush toward it yet. Do not turn this sacred moment into a product decision. God did not bring you here to buy something. He brought you here because you needed clarity and because your spirit has been asking for a way to hear without all the static. The reason I mention it now is simple. Some of what you have called spiritual tiredness is connected to the noise inside the mind. When the higher signal is buried under pressure, fear, and constant distraction, even a message from God can feel far away, though heaven is near. So stay with the message first. Let the ground be prepared. Let the noise lower. Let the private instruction begin to open. Because what Michael is about to show you next is why this message had to wait until you were still enough to receive it. Do not mistake the silence for absence. God was not ignoring you. God was filtering the channel. The reason the message felt delayed is not because heaven forgot your name, but because too many voices were trying to stand between your spirit and the instruction you were born to receive. There were seasons when you begged for an answer. You asked for one clear sign. You wanted one undeniable confirmation that the pressure was not for nothing. And while you were watching the door that stayed closed, God was removing voices from the hallway so the next word could reach you clean. This is the part many chosen ones misunderstand. Delay does not always mean denial. Sometimes delay means protection. Sometimes delay means preparation. And sometimes the answer is held back until your nervous system is quiet enough to receive it without turning it into fear. You thought the waiting was proof that you had missed your moment. It was not. You thought the silence meant the promise had expired. It did not. You thought God was asking you to chase something harder, but He was actually asking you to stop reaching for doors that were never assigned to you. The message had to wait because the old version of you was still too loyal to noise. You would have taken the instruction and shown it to people who were never meant to interpret it. You would have asked for advice from people who benefit from your confusion. So heaven slowed everything down. That slowing felt painful. It felt unfair. It felt like your life was moving in circles while everyone else received movement, answers, love, money, and open doors. But beneath the pain, something holy was happening. God was teaching you to stop confusing movement with assignment. Archangel Michael was not standing there to punish you. He was guarding the message from contamination. He was standing between your calling and the voices that would have twisted it. Because there are people who cannot hear God for themselves, but still feel qualified to rename what God is doing in you. That is why certain conversations started to feel heavy. That is why certain friendships became strangely exhausting. That is why you could sit beside someone and still feel spiritually alone. Your soul was beginning to sense what your mind was not ready to admit. The room was familiar, but the season had changed. God was not only removing enemies, He was removing dependence. He was breaking your need to be understood before you obey. He was breaking your habit of waiting for approval from people who do not carry the responsibility of your assignment. The private message came because public permission could no longer lead you. This is why the delay had to become personal. God needed to know if you would still listen when no one clapped. He needed to know if you would still stay soft when the answers were slow. And He needed to know if your yes would remain true when the room became quiet. The enemy loves noise. He does not always need to destroy you. Sometimes he only needs to keep you mentally crowded. A little urgency here, a little guilt there, a memory that reopens an old wound, a voice that says you are behind, and suddenly even a message from heaven sounds unclear. This is the hidden battle. It is not always dramatic. It is not always visible. It is not always a loud attack. Sometimes warfare looks like a mind that cannot rest long enough to hear the whisper of God, even though the Spirit has been sensing the whisper for days. So God began to filter. He filtered the relationships. He filtered the invitations. He filtered the false emergencies. He filtered the doors that looked good, but carried confusion. And if you are honest, some of the things you lost recently did not leave peace behind, but they did leave space. That space is sacred. Do not rush to fill it. Do not replace what God removed simply because silence feels unfamiliar. The silence is not empty. It is a room being prepared. It is the inner chamber where the instruction can finally land without being argued with by every wound you still carry. Some of what you have called spiritual tiredness also has a mental signal beneath it. When your inner system stays locked in pressure and noise, even a message from God can feel distant. Not because heaven is far away, but because the receiver inside you is overwhelmed. Think about it. How many times have you prayed and then immediately reached for distraction? How many times have you asked for clarity while your mind was still replaying betrayal, bills, regrets, conversations, and fears? You were not faithless. You were overloaded, and overload makes even holy direction feel blurry. But now He is calling you into order. Not harsh order, holy order. The kind that makes room for the message to be received without panic. The kind that lowers the inner storm. The kind that allows your spirit to say, I know this is God, without needing 10 outside confirmations. This is where the old you must stop interfering. The old you wanted signs, but resisted silence. The old you wanted answers, but kept asking broken people to confirm divine instructions. The old you wanted movement, but was addicted to urgency. And God loves you too much to let urgency keep pretending to be obedience. That is why He delayed the reveal. Not because the message was weak, not because your calling was small, but because the message is too important to be received by the version of you that still panics when God asks for privacy. Some instructions are too sacred for a crowded mind. Michael stands as a witness over this transition. He saw the battles you did not have language for. He saw the spiritual pressure around your decisions. He saw the moments when you almost chose the counterfeit door because it looked faster, and He saw God shut it before it could consume your peace. The private message requires a private yes. This is where many chosen ones stumble. They want public confirmation before private obedience. They want the family to understand first. They want the friend to agree first. They want the feeling to be easy first. But heaven often asks for yes before comfort arrives. That is why the message found you now, not yesterday, Not when you were surrounded by people who would have polluted it. Not when you were still trying to prove you were not crazy for sensing what you sensed. Now, because your spirit is finally tired of arguing with what it already knows. You know something is ending. You know something is opening. You know the old rhythm cannot hold you anymore. And you know that if you keep delaying, the pain will not come from God withholding the promise, but from you trying to fit a new assignment into an old life. So let this reframe settle in you. The delay was not rejection. The silence was not abandonment. The loneliness was not proof that you were unloved. It was the clearing of the channel, the protection of the message, and the mercy of God, refusing to let your next step be born in confusion. But here is what you must understand next. If the delay was protection, then the pattern of Scripture will prove it. God has always sent private instructions before public transformation. Stay with me, because what comes next will show you why heaven often speaks in stillness before it moves in power. Private instruction has always been the pattern. Before God changes the outer life, He often visits the hidden place first. Before the door opens in public, there is usually a whisper in private. This is why you must stop judging your season by what people can see. Daniel did not receive understanding because the room was easy. He received it while pressure surrounded him. There were kingdoms, threats, confusion, and questions no ordinary mind could answer. But Daniel carried a spirit that could receive what others missed, because his inner life stayed connected to God when the outer world shook. Mary received a message in a private moment. Heaven did not gather a crowd before speaking to her. The angel did not ask the village to vote on her assignment. The word came to one surrendered vessel, and that private yes changed everything that came after it. This is how heaven still moves. Joseph received instruction in dreams. He had to trust what God showed him, while the world around him could not explain the situation. He had to move based on revelation, not applause. He had to protect what heaven was birthing, even when the instruction arrived through the quiet language of sleep. Elijah heard God after the noise passed. Not in the wind, not in the shaking, not in the fire. The voice came with stillness. That matters for you, because you have been waiting for God to become louder, while God has been training you to become more still. David was anointed before he was recognized. He carried oil before he carried a crown. He returned to fields after the private mark of God was placed on him. That is not delay, that is divine order. Heaven often identifies you long before people are permitted to celebrate you. So when Archangel Michael says, finally, he is pointing to a holy pattern. Heaven sends the message. The chosen one wrestles with the weight of it. The enemy tries to crowd the channel. Then God creates a private moment where the instruction can land without being diluted by fear. This is not the first time God has had to protect a message. He protected Moses in a basket before Moses could lead a nation. He protected Joseph in a prison before Joseph could interpret the famine. He protected David in fields before David could face Goliath. Hiddenness is not rejection. Now listen carefully. The message is not only spiritual in a vague way. It touches the way your mind receives, filters, and recognizes direction. A crowded mind can misread a divine signal. A wounded mind can turn protection into rejection. A tired mind can call a holy delay personal failure. This is why clarity matters. Discernment is not just feeling something deeply. Discernment is the ability to recognize what God is saying without letting fear, trauma, urgency, or other people rename it. You have not lacked sensitivity. In many ways, you have been too sensitive to every voice except the one that brings peace. There are studies around sound, attention, and the way the brain can be guided into higher states of focus. Researchers at places like Harvard, Princeton, and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology have explored how the mind responds to patterns, rhythm, and states of awareness. Spiritually, this points to something you already sense. Your inner receiver can be trained back toward clarity. Your mind does not have to stay scattered. Your attention does not have to remain enslaved to fear. When the noise begins to lower, The Spirit often recognizes what was present all along. Because God was not absent, the room inside was crowded. This is why some people feel a shift when certain sound patterns help the mind settle. It is not magic replacing God. It is not a shortcut around obedience. It is simply one way the noise can become quiet enough for a person to notice the signal that heaven has already been sending. You are not being asked to worship a method. You are being invited to understand the pattern. God speaks. The Spirit recognizes. The mind must become clear enough to agree. If the mind is full of panic, old arguments, shame, and constant distraction, agreement becomes harder than it was meant to be. That is why heaven has been dealing with your attention. The enemy has attacked your focus because your focus is connected to your obedience. He has attacked your sleep because your sleep is connected to your recovery. He has attacked your peace because peace is the atmosphere where divine instruction becomes recognizable. This is why Michael stands as a guardian in this message. He represents protection at the edge of transition. Not a soft comfort only, but a holy defense around assignment. There are moments when heaven does not simply comfort you. Heaven guards the message from everything that wants to distort it. Daniel faced pressure. Mary faced misunderstanding. Joseph faced uncertainty. Elijah faced exhaustion. David faced obscurity. Yet none of these things cancelled the message. They became the setting where the message proved its weight. Your difficulty is not automatic evidence that God is absent. This is where your faith must become mature. Immature faith asks God to remove every uncomfortable sign before moving forward. Mature faith asks for clarity inside discomfort. Immature faith needs the room to agree. Mature faith knows that if God spoke, the room can catch up later. You have been asking for a sign that does not require courage. But the message God sent requires your participation. It asks you to become quiet. It asks you to stop outsourcing your discernment. It asks you to stop treating confusion as humility, when sometimes confusion is just fear, refusing to obey. Do not condemn yourself for that. God is not shaming you. He is calling you higher. He knows why you became cautious. He knows the betrayals that trained you to doubt your own hearing. He knows the prayers that seemed unanswered. But he also knows the receiver inside you is not dead. That receiver has been buried, not destroyed. It has been covered by stress, survival, disappointment, and the pressure to be everything for everyone. But buried does not mean gone. A seed is buried before it breaks open. A message can be hidden before it becomes the word that changes your direction. The pattern is clear. Private instruction comes before public movement. Stillness comes before authority. Separation comes before assignment. And the message God sent you is not fragile, but the version of you receiving it must become steady enough to carry it without running back to every old voice. But here is where it becomes deeply personal. The enemy was not only attacking your life, he was attacking your ability to recognize the voice that was sent to guide you. And in the next part, you will see why you almost missed this message, even though God had already placed it in your path. Now we come to the part your old self does not want to hear. God was not silent. The message was not missing. The door was not gone. You almost missed it, because survival mode became so familiar that clarity started to feel dangerous, and your wounded mind tried to call that danger wisdom. You have been living with your spirit awake and your mind exhausted. You sense more than others sense. You notice shifts before anyone explains them. But when the instruction comes, fear rises and tries to make obedience feel unsafe, because old pain taught you to question anything that feels too holy to be trusted. This is the hidden blocker. It is not always the enemy outside you. Sometimes it is the voice inside you that learned to expect disappointment. It is the part that says wait, even when God says move. It is the part that calls hesitation discernment, simply because hesitation feels familiar. You kept asking for another sign because another sign felt safer than a decision. You kept saying you needed confirmation because confirmation allowed you to delay the yes. And while you waited for peace to feel perfect, heaven had already placed the message in your path. That is why Archangel Michael says, finally. He is not saying you failed. He is saying you arrived. He is saying the message survived the fog, the noise, the doubt, the distractions, and the old fear that tried to make you close what God asked you to open. But every time the knock came, the old mind tried to explain it away. It said you were just tired. It said you were too sensitive. It said you were overthinking again. It said nothing is changing, and it told you not to hope too much, because hope had hurt you before. That voice was not discernment. It was protection that had become a prison. It once helped you survive seasons where people mishandled your trust, but now it is standing at the doorway of your next season, trying to protect you from the very freedom God sent. This is why the message had to become private. If God spoke too loudly around the wrong people, you would have taken their fear as confirmation. If the instruction came with public applause, you might have confused approval with anointing. So God brought you into a quiet room of the Spirit. In that room, no one can answer for you. No one can delay for you. No one can call your obedience dramatic. No one can mock the thing your spirit knows. It is just you, God, the guarded message, and the choice to stop pretending you did not hear. The truth is simple. You are not waiting on God the way you think you are. In this season, God has been waiting on your private yes. Not a loud yes, not a perfect yes, not a yes that everyone understands, a quiet yes that stops arguing with heaven. That sentence may touch something deep. Let it. You said, Lord, show me what to do. But when the answer came wrapped in separation, you called it loss. When it came wrapped in stillness, you called it loneliness. When it came wrapped in discomfort, you called it confusion. So no, you are not crazy. You are being recalibrated. You are not losing yourself. You are losing the version of yourself that needed chaos to feel familiar. And the reason this feels intense is because the false self does not leave quietly. God did not send this message to entertain your curiosity. He sent it to interrupt the cycle. He sent it to separate your true discernment from fear, dressed in spiritual language. He sent it because you are standing closer to a threshold than your emotions can explain. The enemy is not terrified of your pain alone. He is terrified of what happens when your pain becomes clarity. He is not only fighting your blessing, he is fighting your attention, because a chosen one with clear attention becomes dangerous to every chain that once controlled them. If the enemy can keep you mentally scattered, he does not need to steal the message. He only needs to make you too distracted to receive it. He only needs to keep you reacting, explaining, defending, remembering, regretting, and comparing until the holy whisper passes by unnoticed. But it did not pass by unnoticed today. You opened it. That matters. Your spirit pushed through the noise long enough to arrive here. The same hand that guided you to this message is now asking you to stop negotiating with the delay that almost trained you to quit. Say this inside your heart. I did not arrive by accident. I did not open this by mistake. I am not too late for what God sent. My spirit recognized the knock, and now I will stop running from the room where God wants to speak. This is the moment where the false summit breaks. You may have thought the message was simply, God is about to bless you. That is true, but it is not deep enough. The deeper message is, God needs your private agreement before the public door can open. Blessing without agreement can overwhelm a person. A door without clarity can become another trap. A new season entered with an old mind can repeat an old cycle in a new place. So God is not only preparing the blessing, He is preparing the receiver. That receiver is you, not the version of you that performs strength, not the version that smiles while breaking inside, not the version that needs every person to approve your obedience. The real you, the guarded one, the one heaven kept interrupting. Michael says, finally, because the guarded one finally opened the message. Finally, the one who kept doubting the signs stopped long enough to listen. Finally, The one who thought silence meant abandonment can see that silence was the chamber where God protected the next instruction. You need to understand what was protected. It was not just information. It was your attention. It was your clarity. It was the clean yes that could have been contaminated by old fear. It was the sacred moment where you stop asking others what God already confirmed within. You have been asking for the next move. Here it is. Become clear. Become still. Stop calling old fear wisdom. Stop calling delay safety. Stop calling confusion humility. If God has spoken, then your next act of faith is to stop treating clarity as optional. This does not mean everything changes overnight. It means the agreement changes now. It means your spirit stops signing contracts with confusion. It means you stop giving fear the authority to interpret God. It means the next season begins inside before it appears outside. Now that the message is open, the next question is simple. Will you let your mind become quiet enough to carry it? Will you protect the clarity God is restoring? Will you stop feeding the noise that almost made you miss what heaven sent? Because in the next part, I will show you one practical way to support that clarity, and then we will seal this message in prayer. Do not leave yet. The message has been opened, but now it must be received, guarded, and carried into your next season. Now the message has been opened. Do not rush away from it. Let it settle. God did not bring you this far just to stir emotion for a few minutes. He brought you here so your spirit could receive what your mind has been too crowded to hold. Earlier, I mentioned a simple audio tool connected to clarity. Now you can understand why I waited. This is not about replacing prayer. This is not about worshipping a method. This is about supporting the receiver inside you, so the noise lowers and the message God sent can land with peace. Chosen one, you were never created to live under constant mental static. Your spirit was born sensitive, deep, fast, and aware. As a child, you may have noticed things others missed. You may have learned quickly. You may have sensed people before they spoke. That was not strange. That was a gift. But life did something to that gift. Pressure came. School trained you to memorize instead of listen. Pain trained you to survive instead of receive. People trained you to doubt your own knowing. And over time, the higher signal inside you became covered by stress, fear, disappointment, and endless noise. Some scientists describe this kind of loss as a decline in higher brain activity. Spiritually, it feels like the part of you that once heard clearly has been buried under survival. That is why your spirit can sense God is near, while your mind still feels too foggy to know what to do next. This is where the Genius song comes in. It is a 7-minute digital audio track designed to support the brain through sound patterns connected with gamma. Gamma is often linked with sharp focus, deep intuition, flow, and those moments where the mind suddenly becomes clear after feeling blocked for too long. Dr. Robert Lake spent 34 years studying the brain and sound. His work points toward a simple idea. The mind can be guided by certain audio patterns, and when the mind becomes less scattered, a person can return to a clearer inner state. Harvard, Princeton, and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology have explored related areas of attention and brain response. I want you to hear this in the right spirit. The Genius song is not God. It is not a miracle in place of faith. It is not a shortcut around obedience. It is a tool, and a tool only matters when it serves the assignment God is already awakening inside you. One woman almost gave up on it. She was 47, leading people in a financial company, but feeling stuck inside herself. For the first 18 days, she did not feel a dramatic thunderbolt. Around the 20th day, she almost asked for her money back. But something in her stayed curious. By day 34, she realized the shift had been quiet. She was sleeping deeper. She had made a decision at work without the old fear. She no longer felt trapped in the same mental loop. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. But clarity had returned while she was not even forcing it. that is important for you. Some chosen ones expect every shift to arrive like fire from heaven. But sometimes God restores you gently. Sometimes the fog lifts slowly. Sometimes the first sign is not a huge breakthrough, but a calmer mind, a cleaner decision, and a quiet sense that you are not lost anymore. And this is why I am careful with how I speak about it. You may have tried meditation apps. Some cost around $15 a month. You may have seen online courses for $100 to $200. You may have considered retreats that cost $400 to $800, or therapy sessions near $150 each. Those can help some people. Even professional biofeedback clinics can cost around $300 per session. But most of those paths do not specifically focus on gamma support in a simple daily audio format. The Genius Song was created as a one-time digital track, not a monthly subscription. The original price is $49, but for people coming through this message, it is $39. Not as a loud sales trick, not as pressure. The purpose is to make it reachable for the person who knows they need clarity, but does not want another complicated system added to their life. It also comes with 4 bonuses. The Genius Child Audio is valued at $19. The Classic Book is valued at $20. The Guided Visualization is valued at $29. The 5-Habit Infographic is valued at $12. Together, the bonuses alone carry $80 in value. So the full picture is simple. You receive the 7-minute Genius Song audio, the 4 bonuses worth $80, and the support of a 90-day guarantee. The price is $39 one time. No shipping, no waiting. It is delivered digitally, so you can begin when you are ready. There are 18,366 people who have used it. And what matters more is that fewer than 4% have asked for a refund. That means most people continued with it through the guarantee window, which is one reason I can share it here without feeling like I am pushing something empty. And if it is not for you, the risk is covered. You have 90 days. You can request your money back. You do not need to return a digital file. You also keep all 4 bonuses, the full $80 in bonus value, as a thank you for giving the process your time. But please hear this warning. There are fake pages and copied products using the Genius Song name. Some are only ordinary sounds with no real brain entrainment design behind them. Do not search for it on Amazon. Do not search for it on YouTube. Do not search for it on Spotify. The safe path is the one connected below this message, in the description and the pinned comment. That is where the original access, the bonuses, and the guarantee are connected. I am saying this to protect you, because chosen ones are often targeted when they are close to a shift. Now pause for a moment. Take one slow breath. Place your hand near your heart. This is not just a decision about $39. This is a question about whether you are ready to stop letting noise answer for your spirit. If the answer inside you is yes, the path is below, in the description and the pinned comment. Do not force it. Do not panic. But if your spirit recognizes that this is part of your next step, then move with peace. The door is open. Now return to the message. God says, I did not send this to make you afraid. I sent it to gather you back. I sent it to remind you that you are not late. I sent it to show you that what almost distracted you did not defeat you. You opened the message. That matters. You stayed when the old version of you wanted to run back into delay. That matters. You listened long enough for the noise to lower. That matters. And now heaven is asking for one thing, a private yes that no one else has to understand. Place your attention on your heart. Breathe slowly. Let the old fear lose its authority. Let the old confusion lose its voice. You do not need to explain this moment to people who were not called into this room of the Spirit with you. Say this in your spirit. I receive the message God sent. I will not delay what heaven has opened. I release the noise. I return to clarity. I am not abandoned. I am not too late. I am not lost. I am being aligned. Say it again, not for performance, but for agreement. I open the message. I protect the instruction. I stop calling fear wisdom. I stop calling delay safety. I stop calling confusion humility. God has spoken, and I will not let the old noise rename his voice. May every false voice lose its grip on your attention. May every counterfeit door lose its attraction. May every restless pattern inside your mind come under peace. May the guarded message remain clean in you, and may the next step become clear without panic. Archangel Michael stands as a witness over this moment, not because you are helpless, but because your assignment matters. Heaven does not guard what is worthless. Heaven guards what carries purpose. And if this message found you, it means there is something in you worth protecting. Before you leave, seal this openly. Comment, I open the message. Let that be your agreement. Let it be your line in the sand. Let it remind your spirit that you did not ignore the knock this time. Subscribe if you know God has been speaking to you through these messages. Share this with another chosen one who has been surrounded by noise and needs to remember that God is not silent. And if your spirit is ready to support the clarity being restored in you, the path is in the description and the pinned comment. Do not leave as the same version of yourself that arrived. Leave quieter, leave steadier, leave with the private yes inside you. God sent the message. Michael guarded the doorway. Your spirit recognized the knock. And finally, chosen one, you opened it.